Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This happened roughly a year ago, so my mom and my aunt are very close cousins. They always keep in touch with each other all the time, especially through social media. So my aunt also has a friend who had a poor daughter whom she was known for abusing and leaving behind for long periods though she was close friends with my aunt and my mom. She was silently despised due to her abusive parenting. One day my mother got a message from my aunt who was asking for quite a generous amount of money. Though it seemed out of place, my mom didn't question it. She asked how much she needed and she said $500. My mom, obviously in shock, comes to me and asks me if this seemed out of place. It really did. First of all, my aunt wasn't known for borrowing money and she had only received her salary recently, even if she didn't need such a hefty amount. She wasn't one to ask in such a short notice, and lastly, the biggest elephant in the room, she didn't sound like how my aunt would talk or chat online. We both had our doubts, but my mom was feeling particularly curious as to who would dare do this. So she says that she owed her 100 more and that she will pay for all of it. The imposter, and sounding very eccentric, said that she'll have them deposited through her account instead. My aunt would normally do it by cash for some reason. Then she decides to call my real aunt through the landline to let her know the situation. She says how she's in her living room right now, sipping tea and chatting. She says that she will check on her daughter, and oh, to her horror, when she finds her holding her phone chatting with my mom. She was kicked out of my aunt's house immediately. It was ridiculously unbelievable at that time, but it's now something we can all laugh about. It turns out she needed that cash to fuel her rotten alcoholism. Her daughter was also taken into custody from her, and she's now in a lovely home by her dad. Oh boy, do I have a story for y'all today. My boyfriend and I are staying at a hotel right now because our housing fell through. And on Monday at around 5 a.m. my boyfriend goes outside to smoke. A group of about 3 people approach him and try to talk to him. He says that he just wants to smoke and go in and isn't in the mood for talking. So one of the people, a 17-year-old kid, takes offense to this and says, "I think you're testing my gangster." To make this even cringier, this kid is white and was using a fake Mexican accent. So the kid takes out this little mini hatchet and whacks my boyfriend in the knee. Caused a laceration but didn't put enough force behind it to do any damage to the patella or his tendons. My boyfriend gets up and takes out his knife. A fight ensues and he winds up slashing the kid who hits him with the hatchet on the chest, and another guy who was also attacking him on the arm. The other dude happened to be black, which will be relevant later. They stole his vape and tried to take his bong, but he smashed it rather than let them take it. They run away back into the hotel and my boyfriend calls out for help. Someone hears him, helps him back to the hotel, and the police gets called and an ambulance shows up. The front desk calls me, I was asleep at the time, and tells me my boyfriend got attacked. So I run to the front desk to figure out what's going on from the cops. Got a cab to the hospital, and when I got there they won't let me see him because the cops are involved. And there is a lady there who turns out to be the mom of the 17-year-old kid. She's already acting up by the time I get there, telling hospital security she's gonna call corporate. At this point, I don't know her involvement yet, so I ask her, "Hey, do you know what the hell is going on here?" And she immediately starts feeding me nonsense. She says, "Your friend stabbed my son," and made it sound like my boyfriend had just randomly attacked these people. She claimed that he called a black guy the N-word, which isn't even in his vocabulary, that he had stabbed himself, was crazy, and so on. She's saying stuff like my son doesn't carry a knife, and he wouldn't do something like this unless he was standing up for someone. And I'm sitting there thinking this is all nonsense. That if my boyfriend actually did these things, then I clearly don't know who he is. Come to find out that they have been trying to rob him. The kid confessed, and some lady who was very vaguely involved and witnessed it came up to apologize to my boyfriend. They really tried to spin the situation though. Like they wanted to get him charged with a hate crime because he defended himself. The part that stands out the most to me is that the mom really was in full "my kid can do no wrong" mood, to the point that she tried to get me to believe my boyfriend would stab himself. Entitled as hell. And yes, my boyfriend did press charges. Background: I, 17 male, had just gotten a debit card. I had begged my dad for one for a while and finally got one on my birthday. I work part-time at a food chain and put all the money I earn into it. I'm always careful with it and make sure it's with me whenever I'm out. My dad gave me the card so he can see how I can use it and if I'll use it wisely. Sort of like a test to see if I can be responsible with money later on in life. Keep in mind, my family isn't particularly rich. We're stable, but we don't consider ourselves really prominent. I use the money I get to pay for things that I like to buy to ease some of the financial pressure that is on both my working parents. I use it for things like games for my PC, gifts, and treats I get for myself whenever I go out. And I've been saving up for a PS5. The incident: I was hanging out with my friends at the mall. We were walking, talking, and walking around stores. Suddenly, one of my friends, we will call her Jay, started feeling dizzy and unwell. We knew what to do since this happened before. She would get nauseous if she walked too much without rest. My two other friends sat her down and calmed her while I rushed to a nearby supermarket to get her water and some aspirin. Most supermarkets sell that. I don't know what the situation is in the States. I get the items and quickly scan the registers to find them all occupied. At the end of the row of register, though, there was a self-checkout lane that was practically empty. I ran towards the machine, scanned my items, and take out my debit card to pay. As I bagged my items, I tried to wiggle the credit card into my back pocket. I had obviously failed and it fell. But with the place being loud and me trying to be quick, I hadn't noticed that my card had fallen. I run out to meet up with my friends and make sure Jay is alright. And that's when I realized my card wasn't with me. I quickly scanned around the bench we were sitting in and confirmed that I had probably dropped it at the self-checkout. I race back to the checkout area and I see one person there introducing the entitled mother of our story. She was scanning a few very pricey items: caviar, sparkling water, premium shampoo, and so on. I approach her to ask about my card when I see that she's holding it in her hands. I politely tap her shoulder and ask her for my card. She turns and gives an expression that I can only hope people of her kind can make. She waves the thing in front of me and says, "Back up, kid. This is mine. Why would a child like you even have this?" I'm a very standard 6'1" male with a baby face, so it was easy to assume that I was still going through puberty. "Ma'am, the card is mine. Please give it back." This woman was ignoring me and was reaching her hand towards the scanning machine to pay for her things. I glanced at the screen with her list of items, and I'm horrified to see the order amount to the equivalent of $200. My card had one of those chips that allows you to simply place a card on the sensor to pay without having to physically swipe the card. I quickly put my hand over the sensor and told her to hand it over now. I didn't scream it, but said it sternly enough for it to appear like a threat. What happens next still makes me cringe to this day. The entitled mother Pig falls on the ground, starts cowering behind her arms, and she yells, "Thief! Thief! He wanted to rob me! He hit me! He hit me to steal from me! Help!" This immediately catches the attention of everyone in the registers beside us, introducing my savior, nice security guard. He approaches us and tries to understand what's going on. He approaches a woman at first to see what happened, where she sputters slurs and racist remarks at me. I'm Middle Eastern, and where I live and some locals have very unique views on us. The officer, who I later learned was also Middle Eastern, helped her up and turning to me, asked me in our native tongue what happened. This took both me and the entitled mother by surprise since this guy was as white as vanilla. I explain everything to him, with the entitled mother being ignored as she mumbles and growls. After hearing what I had to say, he ordered us both to come into the back rooms so he could check the tapes. We are both taken by other security guards into the security's main office and wait. After about 5 minutes of awkward silent waiting with the entitled mother, the nice security guard comes back and demands my card back from the entitled mother. The entitled mother then burst into a bowl of sobs and tears. "I'm a single mom and I need the money," and give this whole charade. I'm there watching while I die inside from the amount of discomfort I'm in. On one hand, I know this woman is lying just looking for an excuse to steal from a minor. But on the other hand, she's a 40-something woman that probably has kids. And instead of being responsible and owning up to her actions, she's playing victim and throwing a tantrum like a baby. Security confiscated the card, and after confirming it was mine, it had my name on it and I had my ID on me, they let both of us out separately. The officer asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I immediately said yes. Like this lady wasn't even ashamed when she stole the card, she really felt entitled enough to have it since she's older and I'm still young and don't need it, according to her. So I couldn't let her get away with this kind of attitude and audacity. Fair warning, I'm a nerd, so I will be using video game names for others to disclose names. Context: I'm a male 19 with mild autism who had my first run-in with a Karen at work. It was a typical afternoon at work where Triumphs was wafer day, very crowded and so on. I was working up front with bagging stuff for customers. One thing about me was I always liked making the paying people laugh, cracking corny jokes, prop comedy and so on. On this day, however, I was with my awesome manager bagging stuff and then she appeared. She was a typical Karen look. Blonde dyed hair, fake nails, you know. She also had a son around 15, I think. A normal lad. She walked up to the register and my manager greeted her and asked her how her day had been and so on. Karen had one of those snooty, spoiled teen voices, while her son is fake smiling and trying to not die of embarrassment. She had a huge load of items, and I mean huge. Almost 3 carts worth. I'm begging and it gets overwhelming and the son offers to help. I thought at least the son is more friendly than her, but Karen yanks him back. After that, the following conversation ensues. The awesome son says, "Oh mom, don't help, let them do it themselves." She sounded demanding and serious. What the heck? My manager says. Me, rising anger level 1. My manager says, "He was trying to help. No, he needs to learn not to be lazy." She says this pointing to me. Rising anger level 2. Then Lucky, my best friend, enters and hears what's happening. Lucky walks by and sees my anger rising and pats me on the back to basically say, "I'm right here in case anything happens." 2 hours later, well, feels like it, all of Karen's stuff was in a cart and the price was way more than my normal paycheck. And now Karen gives my manager her huge stack of coupons. My manager scans them, but they are all coming back invalid. And my manager tells her this, and Karen goes off, yelling and screeching about horrible customer service and the usual Karen stuff. Then her son steps in and tells her he knew this wouldn't work. Karen screamed at him to keep his mouth shut. At this moment, both me and my manager minds clicked and realized something was really fishy. My manager checked the coupons and say they were expired, but somehow the date was wrong. At least that's what I understood. Like they were all a year off. Manager explained that the coupons were forged. Karen retorted by even more yelling and screeching about us being liars, and then she points at me and yells this, as loud as day, and I quote, "And that R-word the guy is the store's major problem." The whole store went dead quiet. My anger was skyrocketing. The manager, Lucky, and a lot of other people were shocked that this waste of air called me that. Her awesome son was dead by embarrassment. Then my manager told Karen to leave. I want to see the manager. I am the manager, and I'm asking you to leave or I'm calling the cops. You and that? Another slur towards disabled people. Will be sued. Right now my anger is over 9,000. Lucky says, "Please tell everyone what you're suing OP and the manager for." Lucky said this in a smugly tone, me waiting to pull the anger trigger. Karen looks around at everyone staring at her, and she stutters. Then Lucky follows, Cause I believe we have everything on camera with audio and hundreds of witnesses that would say otherwise. So it would be in your best interest to leave and never come back, or we can show the cops the evidence of fraud and forgery you tried to scam us with, and could put you in jail for a long time. So what's it gonna be? Karen went to ghost white and books it out of the store without her son. Her son apologizes profusely for his mom's behavior. We all heard tires screeching as Karen squeals out of the parking lot, so we had to call the dad of the awesome son to pick him up. The manager told me to go clock out for the day to heal up from that experience and got the next day off as well. Last I heard, Karen was put on the watch list and was forever banned from the store. So yeah, the end I guess. I work at a fast food store, and during the holidays, hours have been cut for slow business. I work the closing shifts, and I'm usually by myself when dealing with rushes or when it comes to closing down the store. So I have been trying to pre-close when I come in for my shift. This may include restocking and changing use-by dates, or cleaning out the toppings and placing it in the tub, then replacing it back into the fridge. Sometimes it gets messy since I'm the only one there, but I try my best to do it when there is no one in front of me, with the exception of a few. One day I come in and my shift leader tells me I can't pre-close any later than 9. We close at 10:15, but for one person alone to clean the entire front is insane. I'd never leave. My manager printed out an entire sheet and you had to go through the entire list before actually starting to close. And even if you finish everything on the list, if it wasn't 9, you still couldn't pre-close. Here is a malicious compliance. My coworker is the one who taught me the method of pre-closing so we can get out at 10:45 instead of 12. I refused to do anything but what was in front of me. My job was to serve the customers, not to be prepping food or cooking the food. So I didn't help out at other stations like I used to. I made sure my station was prim and proper. Glass shield was so clean it looked like it wasn't even there. When there was a rush, I took my time with each customer and really got to know them, as some are regulars. But because I am the only one in the front, I usually rush to kill my line. So no, I'm not all smiles in conversation as we got lectured on. Because I did this, I didn't get to start closing until after closing time, which meant I didn't leave till 12:30. So because you wouldn't let me stick to my pre-closing routine, which got me out faster and cost you less money, I am milking every minute to abide by your rules. And since I didn't help with other stations in my downtime, me, who is supposed to be the last station standing, besides dishes who finish around the same time as I do, is still seeing sections that need cleaning because we also didn't have enough people at night. My manager the other day stayed the closing shift with us. My shift leader told me that my manager asked her why I left so late the other day, but when he worked the closing shift he understood why I left so late, because that day we were sort of swamped, and I made sure he saw me following his rules step by step. He left later than I did that day, and I left at 12:45. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.